Hello everyone, welcome to Foodie Friday. I am Dr. Amy with Body and Balance Chiropractic.
Coach Shu, CrossFit Ice House.
Yeah, so we're back today talking more things sugar. So last week we talked about just kind of like what sugar is, what is it also called on labels, how do you see it on a label, all those things. Today we're going to talk about a little bit more once you take the food and eat the sugar.
What happens?
What happened
in your bodies.
In your body. So, when you eat sugar or a sugar-like product or a carbohydrate, which essentially just breaks down to sugar, what happens is your blood sugar starts to rise or spike. Hopefully not this way. Hopefully like
depends what you're eating, right?
So, when your blood sugar starts going up, your body releases a hormone called insulin.
Yes.
Now, insulin's job is to get the sugar from your bloodstream into your cells so that they can use it for things like energy to do all the things. Okay, everyone with us so far? Hopefully so. Now, the problem with some of this is, like I call it kind of just like the merry-go-round of sugar.
Yes.
There's
cycle.
The cycle, yeah. There's something called the glycemic index. So the glycemic index, simply put, is
basically how big of a spike you get when you eat certain carbohydrates.
Yes.
So carbohydrates are the sugars that make your body spike.
Yep.
So fats and proteins are exempt from this. So this is a carb conversation.
Carb conversation.
Yeah.
Carbs only. So we use sugar and carbs kind of like
interchangeably.
Yeah. A sugar is a type of carb, but not all carbs are technically sugars.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, as we keep talking about this, what you want to eat ideally is a diet full of low glycemic index carbs. So, low glycemic index carbs barely raise your blood sugar. Now, when you release insulin, if you eat like a ton of sugar, you're going to release a ton of insulin. If you eat just a little bit of sugar or something that's low glycemic index, the spike is much less.
Right.
Now, the reason you care about this is you want to stay off of this like merry-go-round kind of that we're talking about. When you eat a high glycemic index food, you super spike your blood sugar, you cause this huge crash of insulin, which causes
what goes up must come down.
Yeah, what goes up must come down. And then as your body and your blood sugar are crashing quickly, what happens is your body says, oh, beep, I need to eat more sugar. And then you get cravings for some like Snickers bars or pasta or like other whatever.
Right.
So ideally, you want to eat low glycemic index foods so your blood sugar kind of does this as opposed to this.
Right.
But here's what we'll say. If you're in a cycle of this, that does not change overnight.
No, it does not. It takes a little while to get out of that cycle too. So if you've ever, a lot of folks are doing a Whole30 right now where they're trying to eat just clean for 30 days. And there's like, I think it's like 7 to 10 days in, they're just like hangry and grumpy. And pissed because it's that last bit of sugar kind of working their way out of the system.
Anytime anyone does this, it's like the first 2 days you're like, yeah, this is fine. And then like days like 3 to 5, you're like, ooh, this is a little less fine.
You feel like hungover.
But I was expecting to not feel good. And then days like 5 to 10, you're like, don't want to leave the house because you're ready to stab people. And all you want to do is eat Ben and Jerry's and waffles and everything. Right. So the point is, that's normal, okay? And if you are experiencing that, it's a sign that you need to do that.
Yeah.
So that's normal. So if you're doing the spiking up and down thing, you want to be doing this instead. It will take you probably 10 to 12 days to do this instead of this.
Right, because like as your sugar levels are doing that and your insulin levels in your body are doing that, that's also your energy's following along with that. So we want, while we do want more energy, we don't want it to be followed immediately by a big crash. So as we start to do this, like initially if we're eating healthy, like we might not be feeling much, but that's just going to slowly start to rise as we kind of fuel our bodies properly. So that is one thing. It's not going to be like, I ate vegetables all day and I didn't eat any waffles and Aunt Jemima. I should be feeling great. Like it does take some time for your body to like regulate. Almost think of it like to trust what's going to come into it next and not be like craving more of those big spikes because like they feel good and you have energy and you're like, if you've had a lot of, I don't know, feel great after eating some cotton candy for a very short period of
for
time.
a couple minutes.
Yeah, and then you get like a sugar hangover.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing to note is we're going to touch base, and we're not going to talk about this fully today because we're going to save this for a different day. The concept of like sugar-free stuff.
Yes. And the response that your body has. So whether it thinks what your body, despite what the label says, like what your body is actually doing
is this.
Yeah, it still thinks that we're like jumping
Right.
on the sugar wagon.
So when you look at like artificial sweeteners, they're actually way sweeter. So when they measure like the sweetness factor of like sugar versus like some of these artificial sweeteners are so freaking sweet. And so when you eat them, like the process of digestion and secreting insulin is when you eat something sweet. Your body already starts, it's smart, so it's prepping for what's about to happen. So it's kind of releasing insulin as you go. So when I used to do a lot of personal training, I was kind of like very anti-diet pops, or really anti anything that had like sugar-free anything. Like I loathe sugar-free foods because I think they're like this false security blanket that people have.
Yeah, they're like, well, at least I'm not drinking regular Coke. I'm drinking Diet Coke.
But here's the thing, like if you're trying to be healthier, just don't drink the Coke at all. Like if you have to check, you can't afford it kind of a thing, right? Like don't find chemical gross whatevers because your body doesn't know what to do with that. But what they show, like people that drink, well, we're going to pick on Diet Coke, people that consume Diet Coke way more typically than people who don't, or people who would choose like a Coke alternative, just like a regular sugar Coke every once in a while. Because when you're drinking Diet Coke, you're constantly telling your body, and I mean, like I know some people that have like 5-6 Diet Cokes a day.
Yeah.
So you're telling your body you're drinking something really, really sweet, prepare for it. You're going to spike your insulin, which is going to tank your blood sugar, which you're going to want to consume carbs and quick sugars to kind of lift yourself up. And then again, it kind of creates a cycle of needing another Diet Coke, right?
Exactly.
Like the massive blood sugar drop is going to be like, man, I'm like dragging. Don't mind my dog. She's just choking down here. Man, I'm dragging. I need another Diet Coke. And then we kind of do this whole thing.
Right. Yeah, because your body feels way up here and it wants to stay up there. So when you crash hard, you're craving something that's going to bring you back up.
Right.
So,
what are some good low glycemic index foods and high glycemic index foods?
So low glycemic index foods are the things that are going to be like your vegetables. Like vegetables are carbs. You can eat a ton of them and not get many carbs because they're super low glycemic index foods. Right. Whereas a high glycemic index food is like spaghetti, like
Wonder Bread.
Yes, white bread for sure. Just traditional, like what you kind of think of as highly processed carbs. Fruit is kind of in that mid-range. Some fruit's really high, some fruit's lower.
Your berries are going to be lower.
Berries are lower.
Apples, bananas, grapes.
Pineapples, like all the
mangoes,
really super, super sweet
higher.
Fruit is high. Like usually you can taste like, this is super sweet. It's probably high glycemic index, high GI. And this is not so sweet. This is probably low. Like vegetables, most of them aren't sweet. But here's the other thing about that too, when we're talking about vegetables, is when you stop eating so much fake sugar or the high GI stuff, you'll actually start to notice the sweetness that is in vegetables as well. Like carrots are a little sweeter, so they're higher GI than like a broccoli.
Right.
So even within vegetables, there's a spectrum of GI there too.
It's kind of similar to like salt. And I think a lot of people have experienced this when you try and cut salt out. Like you go from having to salt everything, and then if you don't salt everything for a while, you actually like taste the salt that's already in stuff, and you don't, and then you're like more sensitive to salt. Right. Sugar's the same way. Like the less sugar you eat, the more you notice
naturally occurring sugars,
how intense other sugars are.
Yeah, and then it gets hard to like go back and eat some of the stuff that you were eating all the time, or like drinking that like Diet Coke will not be as gratifying once you've like kind of cut that out.
Like I said, I was really anti-Diet Coke when I was a personal trainer, and like so many of my personal training people committed to actually cutting out Diet Coke. And they were like, okay, I guess I will do this if you tell me it will help. And they all did it, and they all come back to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm actually losing weight. And like, I don't crave like pasta and mac and cheese all the time. And they all go back for that Diet Coke because they're like, oh, I can't, I'm going to have a Diet Coke. I'm going to treat myself. And then they have it, and like pretty much every single one of them is like, I got like 2 sips in, and then I felt like I was drinking battery acid.
Yeah, and just you kind of are. Like, people use that to, like, clean.
Literally clean.
Like somebody told me they
crap off there. Yeah,
the members of the gym was like, I poured some Coke in a toilet bowl because I couldn't get the stains off, and they let it sit, and it got the stains off. Like, why don't drink that? No.
Corrosive, like, isn't that what people pour on batteries when there's like corrosive?
Yeah, they do. Or like trying to get like crud off of pennies. Like take a dirty penny you find and
stick it in some
a glass of Coke and just like let it sit, and that will be like the shiniest penny ever because it's just got that corrosive property to it, and that's, I mean, not really great for your insides, but that's usually where we've had people start too on the nutrition, and it's like, all right, what are you drinking? Because a lot of the times people just look at what they're eating, and this is probably a whole other thing, is we don't look at like what's in our cups, and you can make up a lot thanks to like the Starbucks and the big soda companies. Like you can do a lot of damage with just what you're drinking.
I know, like for myself too, one of the things when I'm like really get into eating clean, and like I notice a huge difference if I'm committed to this, I don't eat high glycemic foods in the morning. And in fact, I like try to avoid carbs at all costs until I'm like at least eating lunch, unless I've had a really big workout in the morning. Right. So what happens is like you go to sleep, right? And you're not eating at all.
You're fasting.
When you're sleeping. Yep. So you're in a fasting state. So your blood sugar is lower.
Right.
So the worst thing you can do when you wake up in the morning is like eat some Cinnamon Toast Crunch with some milk.
Right.
And like
shoot it right up there.
Have a blood sugar of 500, and then like you just create that for the day. So the best thing you can do for yourself in the morning is like I like try and avoid carbs until lunch. So the only carbs I basically get are I like put half and half in my coffee every morning, and we all know I'm not giving up caffeine in the form of coffee. That's just not a thing for me. Pry it out of my cold dead hands, which is fine. I account for it, and like I'm a sissy and I can't drink black coffee unless it's French press, and I don't have time for that. So coffee with half and half it is. Yeah. Because those are my carbs though, and then I eat meat and veggies or eggs or protein. Basically. Yeah,
eggs and veggies, or like we did like a recipe for like muffin, like the egg muffins. Like those are awesome. Protein, veggies.
Yep.
Something like that is great. So I also agree with that. Yeah. You don't want to start with a big spike.
Don't like, and so many breakfast foods are that
cereal. Like for years and years and years, like that's just what was out there. You're supposed to start with that.
Toast.
Yeah, and that's like
granola bars
too. Yeah, there's not like there's waffles, pancakes. Like there's a lot of super
cinnamon
sweet
rolls, donuts.
Yeah, opt for the savory side of the menu for breakfast for sure.
Yes.
Try to get yourself started so that you're not setting yourself up for a loss. So you get to work, you have your coffee, and then you're starving and you're checking the clock every 5 minutes to see when it's acceptable socially to eat your lunch.
I promise you that if you eat like super low glycemic in the morning, and like see if you can just do this for a week and just like not eat a bunch of trashy sugar spiking carbs in the morning, and like you would be amazed how much less hungry you're going to be just through the rest of the day. Right. But if you start your morning off with that high glycemic kind of crash, it just sets the tone for the whole day, and it's really hard to get off of this through the day.
Absolutely. So yeah, try to stay low GI in the morning, and I'd even, if you're a soda drinker, I know you kind of bash soda, but like look at how much you're drinking a day, and I challenge you to slowly start taking that out. Like you don't necessarily have to go cold turkey, but if you can take out one soda a day.
I'm a cold turkey person. I think
you're an all or nothing.
I'm a black
or white 0 to 60.
Like I have 2 modes, so that's fine too.
Yeah, I miss things when they're gone. When I first took out the creamer in my coffee, I was like, I wonder if it thinks about me too.
Staring out the window.
Yeah.
I wish I had your strength. I wish I had your strength. Maybe that'll be my challenge this week. Black coffee.
Yeah, it's black like my heart.
Black like my soul without cream in my coffee. All right. Well, we will see you next week when we continue to talk about more food stuff. If you do any of this, be sure to let us know how it goes. If you have any other ideas for stuff that you want us to talk about, comment below. Otherwise, we will see you next week.